The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Dan Besbris, Aaron Bruski, Friday, Fantasy NBA Today. They always say you gotta answer who, what, when, where, and how, right? That's like how you make a promo poster. How is via the internet, because we're in a magical time where Aaron and I can talk without being anywhere near one another. Brew, what's up, man? Good morning.
What's up, Dan Besbris?
How's that for a start?
What a morning it's been, and what a couple of days, and what a couple weeks, months, years. What time we live
in. This one's gonna get weird, folks. So buckle up. At Aaron Bruski, if you want to follow him on Twitter. I am at Dan Besbris on Twitter. This is a Hoop Ball presentation and brought to you, as always, by our good pals at Hawaiian Isles. Kona Coffee Company, HawaiianIsles.com, at HI Kona Coffee on Twitter. Brew, what's your, I gotta stop calling you Brew before I want to ask what your brew of the day is. So, Aaron, what is your brew of the day?
Nah, you could do the
Brew, what's your
repetition.
Brew? What's Brew's brew?
Brew? What's the brew? The brew is the Sunrise blend, which is just kind of right down the middle, just a good, solid coffee, though. Over the weekend, I've been French pressing the coconut, chocolate.
Every time you tell me you're French pressing, I just picture this weird. Did you ever read the Dictionary when it was on like E-Bombs World back in the early 2000s? Remember E-Bombs World website?
I remember E-Bombs World, and God, are they still around?
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up right now. But every time you say French press,
the fake G.I. Joe ads.
Yes, of course. Pork chop sandwiches.
Oh, dude. That
best.
Was the funniest thing back in the day. I don't know if it's still funny, but
it certainly was when you were definitely not intoxicated. Sorry, I totally interrupted your French, but every time you say French press, I'm like, oh, I wonder what that would be in the Dictionary. Now that's the Urban Dictionary. What is a French press? I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
I don't know.
What does it actually mean to French press something? Because my coffee knowledge is so minimal.
Oh, wow. Okay. So it's pretty simple. I mean, you've got this like glass cylinder that fills up, probably like 16, 20, 24 ounces of water. You boil the water and then you put coffee grounds in the bottom of this thing. And then you basically just pour the water on top, and all of the coffee grinds will sort of float to the top or whatever they do. And then you use this little plunger thing, and that essentially operates like your coffee machine would. And once you've done that, you're pretty done. But what I didn't know is that there's actually technique involved. So as I got sent just gobs and gobs of Hawaiian Isles coffee, which is amazing, I made one, and I was like, you know what? I'm tired of making this crappy. So I looked it up. There's a time you have to roast it. There's kind of a method involved. And now that I've been doing that, it's really just an amazing, especially for flavored coffee, it's a subtle flavored coffee. So you get the taste of coffee, you get the taste of whatever, like the coconut chocolate I've been having. And they also just have one that's just kind of chocolate, and that's it. So it's been great. I love it. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Hawaiian Isles. It's been great, especially for a coffee head like me.
By the way, I'm going to close this discussion.
Did you learn something, Dan?
I did learn something, actually. I'm going to close this discussion by saying don't look up what it is on the Urban Dictionary. It's not good. It's not good.
Never Google.
Never Google. It's a lesson I should have learned a long time ago. Never read the comments section and never Google. We're going to talk fantasy sports today. That's a thing. And I have a massive list. We're not doing questions today because we are going recorded on this Friday. We'll be back live again a week from today. If you're, today being Friday, that is, depending on when you're listening to this podcast. Today could be a different time. So, Brew, I've got a list of all the things that happened this week. And unfortunately, I got to start with Oladipo. I know you already talked about it with the ITL guys. How are they doing, by the way? How are my lords?
We did a podcast during the day, so they were kind of sober. So we were all very alert, and no, they're doing great. And I think they said they want to be on the trade deadline special.
Nice.
So I said that you'd reach out to them. I was kind of speaking out of turn, but they're ready for that. They're really knee deep in fantasy. I mean, I love going on that show because I don't ever get a question that's not expert level from them. And so I really feel like I not need to be prepared, but like I can't just sort of schlep my way through like some of these media hits I do. They're just sort of like
this show
on, surface level.
like
no,
NBA. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Yeah. You know what? Would I and we'll do this brief ITL gushing here and then transition back into the Oladipo stuff. I don't know how they keep all the sports straight. I have enough trouble just tracking basketball.
I don't know how they do it either. They do like cross-sport fantasy leagues, which is fascinating to me. They draft from like baseball, football, basketball, like all at the same time. And so it's very inventive. We did cover a lot of really, really good angles, especially on like the trading front. If you're trying to project with the trade deadline coming up, of course, as well, where guys are going to slot in. I mean, are they going to, somebody that's top 10 right now going to slide to top 40? Those little increments of 10 ranks, we don't talk about those a lot. And that's something I've really tried to do with the blurbs over here is make sure that we're getting really narrow with our analysis. And so we talked a lot about that stuff. It was good.
All right. So let's start with Oladipo over here. Victor out for the season. Brutal injury. Brutal. So last time he was out
for fantasy owners, you're already penalized by drafting in the 11 or 12 slot, and to get hit with that. I mean, I guess at least it's not like Kawhi last year where you just had to keep hanging on.
Yeah, you can. At least you got your very narrow silver lining is that you do get that roster spot back, but that is a very narrow silver lining. I am very fortunate. While we're talking about drafting near the turn, I had a lot of picks in that 10 to 12 range. And I ended up with 0 Oladipo somehow. A lot of Dames and Paul Georges on my team, and thank goodness for that. All of those teams are in decent position because of those two guys just basically playing every game, knock on wood so far, because the rest of my team is dead. But last time Oladipo was out, so we'll forget this sadness for a moment. Now we try to break down the analysis side. The last time he was out, Darren Collison was like all of the guards for that team. He was piling up assists. If I recall, I think he averaged like 8.5 assists when Oladipo missed a few weeks earlier in the year. He's been playing better regardless, even with Oladipo around, and thank goodness we're able to hang on to Collison in the tough times. Tyreke Evans has actually been playing better with Oladipo around as well. So there's this weird kind of new dynamic where, like, the last time he went out, everybody on Indiana was a mess, and they kind of figured things out while Oladipo was gone, and then when he came back, they transitioned back in, and everybody was better. Thad's been better, Collison's been better, Tyreek's been better. Now he goes out again, and everybody gets just a little bit more, but it seems like Collison and Tyreke are the two guys who get the biggest bump. My question for you, Brew, is Collison's an obvious one. He should have been on teams anyway. Does Tyreke move across the cut line onto the good side now?
Well, I think Tyreke Evans, a couple of things happening with him, namely the knee has been a long-term since he was in Sacramento concern. And that time off he had, it might be the case that he was able to get his knee right during that time. How long that lasts is obviously probably a week-to-week question with him now. But there has been an explosion in his game that has not been there earlier in the season. So whatever he did, it worked, at least temporarily. And now he's, I think he's a must-add guy in 8-cat leagues. I think in 9-cat leagues, I think his upside is probably in that top 90 range. And you might not take a chance on a guy like that if that's his upside and his realistic production is maybe top 110, top 120, something in that range. You got an injury risk component there. Not sure you want to, dump a really strong roster player in order to pick that up in a 9-cat league. That said, 8-cat, I think it's all systems go. I think if you're in a deep league, you're looking at Aaron Holiday. He's been able to put up numbers really well in the minutes that he's gotten. And then Collison is going to be probably top 75. Maybe he slides a little bit if Tyreke gets on a roll and, sort of retakes, I guess, the Victor Oladipo position, and you see Collison start to slide back a little bit. But The other guy I'm looking at is Domantas Sabonis. He was quiet in that first game, the injury game for Victor Oladipo. He has established himself as probably the number one guy. I mean, it's hard because he's not the ball handler. He's not going to get the ball. And you're going to have Tyreek Evans doing that. We all know what he does with the ball, and it's sometimes not great. Sabonis is a really good player that's coming into his own, and he has that aggression. And I think what we're going to see is early season Sabonis the rest of the way.
That's not bad, I suppose. Well, get well soon, Victor Oladipo. We'll close out this kind of sad chapter of the show with that. Other injuries, though, he's not alone in the injured department. Some of them reasonable length as well. And I'll just get it out of the way here early, Brew. Rip the Band-Aid off. Spencer Dinwiddie. And that one kind of came out of nowhere. Didn't Caron Butler break the news? It was just like, I'm talking to my guy Dinwiddie, and he said his thumb is busted.
Actually, he broke it like a reporter would. So you kind of get the sense for what Caron Butler wants to do, with his post-playing career.
All right, good for you, Caron. Get it.
Yeah, I mean, break a story, man. The good news here, we're going to go silver linings today. If he misses 4 to 6 weeks, which is what I mean, almost every finger or thumb injury I've seen, like they get, the initial, this is the diagnosis, and then there's a 1 to 2 day period where they decide whether or not they want to have surgery. I don't recall somebody actually ever saying, "Nah, I'm not going to do that surgery." So he's probably going to do that. And the only good news here is the All-Star week will absorb a couple of those, a week or two of those days off. So you might only get impacted on a weekly league, to the tune of 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully. And you can work with that. And this is where we're at, I think, across fantasy sports. Everybody says it every year, but I cannot, maybe it's been a year or two since it's been this bad. I see red crosses up and down my roster. You guys are sending me your rosters, and I'm laughing in pain with you about some of these injuries, and they just keep coming. So, but if it could be 2 to 3 weeks, that's great. And we'll see what happens in Brooklyn, because, the playoff chase there is probably important to the team. It's probably important to the coach. It's important to the players. D'Angelo Russell's on a heater right now. And I need to just say, he has taken a step up that's been way above and beyond what I would have ever foresaw for him. And I did look at when Dinwiddie signed his deal, which was really a shot across the bow at him. I thought, you've got a guy in Karis LeVert that everybody says is your franchise player. You got Spencer Dinwiddie gets a deal that's sizable, and it still is, I think, their best point guard. D'Angelo Russell has to be thinking, what about me? And he goes out since that contract, and he shot 49% from the field, and I think he's missed like 2 free throws. Not that he's getting to the line a lot, which is a clue about what's going on with his game right now. But that's coming back. So if Russell slumps, you have no Dinwiddie, you're already a little thin to begin with. Do you start sliding back from the playoffs? If you start sliding back from the playoff chase for whatever reason, maybe you get less aggressive on a return for Karis LeVert. Maybe you get a little less aggressive on a return for Spencer Dinwiddie. So these things are all sort of in flux. We'll be watching all of them. But yeah, brutal.
The Brooklyn Nets currently sit at 26 and 23. They're in the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. They're kind of in their own little bubble right now. 4.5 rather back of the Celtics. 2 games up on the Hornets. And the Brooklyn Nets season-long over bet looking just outstanding these days. So feeling pretty good about that bad boy. I think I had one more injury I wanted to go over. Oh, that's right.
Just one?
Well, one more new one. And my guy, man.
There's another one that just hit.
Yeah, Tristan Thompson out for a couple more weeks. I was debating right before we went on air. I said, Bruce, should I just drop this guy? And you were like, and now I'm dropping him. I'm literally dropping him the next time you say something on this show. I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to go drop Tristan Thompson because this feels like the plug is getting pulled. It wasn't the guy I was going to talk about, but screw it. Let's go Cleveland now. Ante Zizic is playing center, big minutes until Larry Nance comes back. I do still think we see a tiny bit of Kevin Love this year. I'd be surprised if they just didn't play him at all, but it seems like it's going to be small amounts that don't risk any injury. I know I'm getting off topic here. Let's talk about all of them.
But the Tristan Thompson thing is basically, here's what we know. He keeps getting ruled out well in advance. That's what we know.
Yeah.
And so who wants to play for this Cavs team? And I think the answer is nobody.
They really are. They're embarrassing. Can I give you a stat as we get into talking about these guys?
Sure.
You know that I've been tracking this revenge angle, by the way. And we got a post, a very thoughtful one, mind you, so I don't want to call out anybody, but we got a post on YouTube that was talking about how the revenge angle is bunk. But I think that this person was reading a different revenge angle. So let me go back and explain what we're tracking here on this show. And myself, with my good buddy Neil Rochlani, who one of the two hosts of our Box Score Breakdown show. It's not just who won the last ball game. That's called the zigzag theory, and that has proven to be useless in betting circles. And I don't care what it means in fantasy circles because it's sort of irrelevant. This is a different revenge angle. This is teams that have lost all of the season-long meetings with a particular opponent and then tracking how they perform against the spread in each following meeting. Not spread the first time. Straight-up losses, how those correspond to spread results in the following meeting and any subsequent meeting before they actually win a ball game between those two teams. So it's a different angle. It's not the one you guys are thinking about. I do appreciate the comment, though. It shows that you're listening very closely, and that's awesome. It's actually just nice to know that people out there are listening at all. So anyway, Brew, the
nobody's listening anyway, Dan.
I know. I'm going full Bob Uecker on this thing. Tonight's post-game show is brought to you by... I can't find it. The hell with it. I was able to break it down because I'm doing all this in Excel and sort it by team, and I think I gave it out either on yesterday's or the show before that one. The Cavs are far and away the worst revenge team in the league. They have had now, and I need to fill in. Oh, they've got another one tonight. Thank heavens for that. They've got a double
revenge game.
Yeah, pretty much. So they're piling them up, and they're losing them all. Early in the year, they actually won their first two when they may have had a small measure of pride. After winning their first two, they have won 4 the rest of the way and lost 12. This is against the spread, by the way. So this is like catching 15, 10, 17, 11, catching boatloads of points. They care so little that they can't even cover 15, 16 points against teams where they should, if they cared at all, make those small adjustments. They are far and away the worst team in the NBA in that department. And if you yank the Cavaliers out, the revenge angle would be up like 50 units right now. So again, this is why it's important to track every team individually. But I do think that says a lot about how little they care. Even the people that are playing don't really want to be playing. That's embarrassing for the franchise.
It's the worst collection of players. I mean, there's just nothing smart about what they've done. And it's that's the kind of thing, though, like when you look at from ownership, I mean, Dan Gilbert, look at the guy. I mean, obviously that guy's not somebody who inspires much confidence in anybody or anything.
Well, they have a head coach who said out loud, I don't really want to be back next year.
Right. I know. I mean, it's like from top to bottom, it's just a complete blank show. And so, yeah, I mean, Tristan Thompson getting ruled out a couple, hours, days early, it doesn't inspire much confidence. And I don't think if I'm Tristan Thompson and I got a foot injury that I want to play through anything. So, I mean, we in our ringer leagues, we had Zizic was a really high bid. Everybody went after him. I had him ranked really highly. I think I got him once, but I can't remember right now off the top of my head. It's he's going to be a great fantasy asset provided Tristan Thompson doesn't come back. So it was the reason I think why I didn't go as big as some others did is we just don't know. Like Tristan Thompson post All-Star break could easily be on the floor. And so for those considering dropping him, you do got to at least take a little bit of care to think about what if what we don't know, could hurt us in this case, because he's been pretty good this year and he will continue to be good as long as he's on the floor.
Okay, so let's just take it name by name quickly here. Ante Zizic, who's the only healthy center right now, use him until someone comes back?
Oh, absolutely. He's a must-own player because he could easily just go the rest of the way and be at a minimum late-round value with some mid-round upside.
Larry Nance, he's expected back in the next, possibly tonight, by the way.
He was floating around leagues, and I, based on some injured player situations, like I couldn't be as aggressive picking him up, but he's a top 75, 85 guy, and he's coming back soon. And sure, he's an injury risk, and we don't know what's going to happen with any of these guys, but he's a guy that folks should own. I don't think he should be on any waiver wires.
Do you think they'll play Nance and Zizic at any point together?
Maybe. I mean, it's Nance is athletic enough to make you want to play him next to Zizic. The alternatives are not that compelling. So I think, Nance has been a guy like Cleveland has their guys, that they're promoting, and it's, Nance is one of them. He's obviously, his dad is Larry Nance, and, they've done this big outreach to fans with Larry Nance. I think he gets minutes, which is sort of in a nutshell what Cleveland's all about. If it looks good, they're going to do it.
Kevin Love is the only one we haven't really talked a whole bunch about. I still think he plays a little bit, as I just said before. I don't think it's going to be much, and I don't think you'll see him in a back-to-back. I don't know that you'll ever see him crack 30 minutes in a game this year, but don't you see him squeezing a few games out just to get on the floor?
Here's some news that just came through. Tristan Thompson out 2 more weeks.
Yes, that was what I was citing. I wasn't just making it up before. That's what I thought.
You did say that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it looks like I need to have some more Hawaiian Isles Kona coffee.
That's right. French press that joint. Am I using that right?
I'll be looking something up after the show.
Yeah.
This does it for me. I think Thompson. This now indicates serious foot injury, and now you're looking at. There's really no reason to bring him back.
Yeah.
I don't think Love is coming back for, the grind. That's for sure. So he's an early round asset when healthy. I think he's a luxury stash though. So you got to really look at your roster. If you're in a playoff league, you're trailing, you got to make a move. If you're in a roto league and you're just getting killed by games played because you have this red cross on your bench, I think you got to consider making the move.
If you're in that nice position where you could just sort of squeeze 20 games out of a guy, then that's your spot where you could potentially hang on, basically.
Yeah, and I will say this, I work really hard to keep guys like this so I can enjoy that early round upside for those 4 to 5 weeks. So do it, be very careful about, a drop, but there are a lot of teams in this moment that are starting guys in weekly leagues with 1 game, 2 games. The amount of injuries to key fantasy players, and especially even hoopball guys, it's staggering. So you really do have to look at the missed games component.
Yeah, I don't know. Talk about how many JVs and Bazes I have just chilling for the last month and a half. Let's talk about something good. Jonathan Isaac has 2 good games in a row. Is this the start of something, or is this a 2-game blip, or are we going to find out tonight? You know my rule on all of this. Orlando does host the Wizards this evening, by the way. My rule was I needed to see 3 good games in a row before I got him into my starting lineup. And sadly, I had way too many other guys get injured before Isaac could put together 3 good games in a row. So I ended up having to drop him basically everywhere just to get somebody putting up, top 110 numbers into my lineup. And it wasn't him. Is it now? Or is this Jonathan Isaac, he did his 2-game thing and he might go away soon? Do we believe it?
Well, here's the thing. We know he's capable of this. It's not a question. It's a matter of execution by the Orlando Magic. And so, he plays a part in this. And so he can't be completely bifurcated from the entire analysis. That's not what we're doing, but
that was some college level stuff right there.
There you go.
Yeah.
I did try to sleep in class. So this is just like, this is why I've been holding Isaac everywhere I can, is we know he's capable of this. Now it's just up to the Magic to get out of their own way, and to some degree for Isaac to get out of his own way. So I'm just holding. And I understand that people have had to drop. Like, I understand like the thought processes there. I understand being sick of it. I understand low, just everything totals, just these terrible stat lines. The season long value is not good. Just seeing 2 games of that, you should know what that upside is now. Hang on to it. I know it's tough. I know that, it's not a popular position right now. Just hang on to it.
Yeah, that's the spot too. If he does it a 3rd game in a row, I think I'm throwing him into my lineup. Here's another little piece of good news. What do you think of what you've seen from Kenneth Faried in Houston so far? How about that 6 defensive stat game? But please stop shooting free throws. Please don't go to the line anymore.
Well, these games have turned weird, and this is unprecedented territory when you have one player on offense that is slowing the pace down and just going straight ISO the entire time. So all 4 players and the X amount of rotation players for Houston are standing on offense, and maybe screen here, maybe this there. They're still playing, but they're not really playing. So they have a lot of time to focus on defense. And Faried is definitely trying to make his name and make the most out of his opportunity here. So I think we're going to get the best version of Faried that we could possibly hope for. You're not getting those stats every night. You might see a bump of like 25 to 50% over his career numbers in a short-term span until Clint Capella gets back, based on a small sample size. That's possible. The points and the boards will be there. He's a must-own, maybe even must-add player. He's already been added, so it's, whatever. But, in terms of if you happen to see him on the wire, I think for the next 3 to 4 weeks, he's going to be well worth the ad. So it's gonna be good for him. I think it's going to be good for the Rockets to have him on the floor because he sort of fits their mold as well. And so it's weird how things work. He was dead to rights, and now he's just kicking it for the next 4 weeks as a really good producer for the Rockets.
I remember the other bad news that I forgot to bring up that I was about to was I had to move my motor home back to where it came from. Nico Mirotic is out again. What the crap,
I was
man?
like, you got one injury to talk about, Dan?
Well, Nico was going to be the other one. It was going to be Depot, Nico, and whatever the other third one.
Did you see? We got to hit Butler. So.
Yeah. Sort of. Although they're all saying he's expected to play on their road trip right now, so I'm not in panic mode yet.
I'll just say this, and you're right. That piece of the news is good. Sprained right shooting wrists. Like, we had this many years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I have no idea. Darren Williams had the same style of reporting, and a shooting wrist is just, it takes so much pounding during the game. It's so critical to your shot. It just gets worse. I hate to deliver the bad news, but, and Jimmy Butler's a guy that will play through it. So hopefully this is more mild, but the fact that he has to see a specialist, not great. But anyway, as we were saying, Nico Mirotic.
So
this was the gut. This is the kick to the gut. Because it was so stupid. Like, I think he knee knocked somebody and then it turned into a calf injury.
Yeah, all of this is stupid. Every time I look at the end of the night and I'm like, let's see if any of
Dinwiddie went for like 26, I think, in 7.
Yeah.
In the game that he
looked
purportedly
fine.
hurt his thumb. He's also sitting out there on Twitter telling everybody that, hey, everything's okay. And like, somebody tweeted at us fake news when the report came out from Caron Butler. And
it kind of did seem like
okay,
it.
what's the conspiracy here? Like, is he not really hurt? But no, he's probably out. But
yeah,
it's been, so Nico was a kick to the gut. I'll just say that because, you just get him back. He's been powering our teams from the beginning of the year. We went through basically just crap injury reporting by the Pelicans. Good luck getting into fantasy or regular gaming, NBA, if you've got teams out there that do this stuff, because people are going to complain. And now the Pelicans are just wide open, man.
Yeah, what a ridiculous thing that has emerged there, and that ridiculous thing is named Jahlil Okafor, who you kind of, with Nico and AD out, you kind of have to use him, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he did come back to earth. He finally put up a pretty typical Okafor line in this last one, 18-8 with no steals and blocks. He had the season high for the Pelicans, 6 blocks the other night. He is, I'll say this for Jahlil, and it's kind of back to the D'Angelo Russell thing. When you see your NBA mortality sort of thrown in front of you, and Okafor's actually been pretty public with his struggles with depression, and you just sort of wonder, like, the league can be rough on rookies, and all of these guys go through just this incredible journey to the NBA, and maybe not one that's healthy, and he struggled. And so now, coming into sort of a last chance position with the Pelicans, he was in extremely good shape in the beginning of the year, had the ankle injury, then sort of settled back in as a non-rotation guy. He's showing that same level of conditioning. He's never going to be a great defender. He's never going to be more than what we kind of always thought he was, but he's going to be, I think, 20-10 threat anytime he's on the floor until Anthony Davis returns. So for a week, he's going to be very good.
Oh, well, yeah, at least we got the news that Anthony Davis wasn't going to be out forever. Okay, let's shuttle along. Let's take a stop in Los Angeles. We haven't been there in a little bit. For weeks, I've been talking about how I felt like when Rondo and or LeBron James came back, you'd probably see a little bit more JaVale McGee. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to happen as quickly as it did. He didn't have a massive game or anything, but he did see his minutes move back up from 16 or 17 immediately up near 23. Was that Rondo, or was that the opponent in Minnesota, or a combination of both? He still didn't start the game, but if you're getting 22 minutes out of JaVale McGee, that's more than enough.
Yeah, I don't know the thinking right now, because, I mean, you start Zubac, and Zubac is this really interesting, unique player. Lost his entire confidence last season and was just really bad. He has a little bit more mobility than the other two lumbering centers. There's a trio of lumbering centers, which is kind of unique in today's NBA. He has more mobility. Not sure that really matters against Karl Anthony Towns, but he got the start. Tyson Chandler out, so what you hope that doesn't happen is that this becomes a 3-man center rotation and one center doesn't play, every so often. No indication that they would take McGee off the floor though so far. So that's mostly just tinfoil hat stuff. Rondo plays well with McGee, plays well with centers that run to the rim in the pick and roll. So this was, like you said, I think this one was pretty easy to spot. And I don't know what to say about Rondo other than, man, that guy is the worst. He just, the tech for the towel thing last night,
that was amazing.
I played baseball, so I get it. We all try to do anything we could to get an edge. But I was also young. This is the NBA, man. I don't know. But he's going to be great, for, until LeBron comes back, which, by the way, LeBron's coming back when he damn well chooses.
Yeah.
So that's not good for fantasy owners, but it's great for Rajon Rondo's fantasy owners.
No, and they're still the 9 seed, so things haven't totally imploded. They haven't been good, make no mistake. They've also run into a tougher part of the schedule, but they are kind of staying afloat without LeBron, so he's been taking his time, and for the Lakers, that's a good thing. There's no reason to run him into the ground this year when they ain't winning a championship anyway. So take your time, LeBron. Everything's going to be okay. Next stop on the tour de force is Miami, who finally had a rotation change. They switched up the starting lineup. They gave Tyler Johnson traditional starters minutes. But I have so many questions with this team. I still have additional beeves with this team. That's like the ancient Greek plural of beef. So let's start with the thing that I liked, which is somebody else got starters minutes, and that was Tyler Johnson. Do you think that happens again?
Why are we talking about the Heat?
Because I got to figure out what's going on with this team. Spoelstra's getting paid per player used.
I think you inspired a column by Ira Winderman because you tweeted at him. I saw it, and then he said, "Are the Heat a DFS team?" And that's where it's at. And every question into Ira is what the hell is going on with the lineups and the rotations? It is probably on Pat Riley, if I had to guess. And nobody wants to question Pat Riley in the Heat organization because, he'll roll those rings across the table. You'll be gone. It's not going to be good until addition by subtraction happens like 3 times. And it's really unfortunate. Like Derek Jones Jr. had a really good game followed by a dud. And you just
totally predictable, though. Totally predictable. The dud.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and he's been actually good enough to have in lineups throughout those waves. So I don't think, I'm not dropping Derek Jones because there comes a time, pressure burst pipes. I can't see them in the last quarter of the year continuing to have this problem. Like they will either fall out of the playoff chase because they suck because of it, or they will have corrected some ills, sent some people away, with injuries for the rest of the year. And then I think you will see Derek Jones Jr. settle in as one of their guys, 20 minutes per game at a minimum. But it's ugly. So it's just so ugly.
So ugly.
You would think there'd be some semblance of, this is an organization known for doing mostly smart stuff. And this one is just like a red letter basketball 101. You're dumb if you don't know it type of a situation.
So what the F is the question then?
I don't think any of them, Goran Dragic is coming back, and I stashed him in a couple leagues a couple weeks back, thinking maybe he might have an early return, but that was just like a flyer I was taking. Never now I'm not looking at any of them at all. If I get burnt on it and somebody bounces, into a great position, I don't care. It's they're the only players worth owning are Richardson, Whiteside, and Derek Jones Jr.
You are coming dangerously close to building a treehouse to keep out the Miami Heat.
I'll just buy your treehouse that you've been stalking Nico with.
That's true. We could just paint over the word Kings with Heat if you want. It's a pretty easy sign to or we'll just flip it around. We'll put Heat on the back. No Heat allowed. What a pain in the ass that team is. All right, next stop. Memphis. We want to talk about disasters. Memphis is currently a disaster. Their stars are on the trading block. They're like 1-13, I think, in their last 14 games. I'm very close to the number. I might be off by 1 or 2. They've lost 7 in a row, many of them to bad teams. Marc Gasol and Mike Conley have actually looked okay through a lot of this stuff, but that's about as far as it goes. What is something going to break? Like, it's hard to move a superstar. It seems like there's a lot of interest in Mike Conley. I haven't heard as many rumors about Marc Gasol so far. And I love the fact that Justin Holiday played 40 minutes in their last ball game. What's your take on what is and is going to happen with the Grizzlies?
The Grizzlies. Okay, so Mike Conley, I actually think Gasol's more likely to be traded, but truthfully, we don't know. So it's up in the air. But my thinking is this, point guard in the NBA, there's a handful of teams that don't have point guard solutions right now. And maybe another handful that are, willing to bring in Conley and eschew their current point guard situation and just sort of throw caution to the wind. So I kind of see him as harder to move, though teams would like probably, Mike Conley, even though the deal is pretty prohibitive.
He's got a couple more years on it, right?
Yeah.
Or is it one more?
I think the hard part with Gasol is, I think people are more worried about his long-term ability to play at the level he's at. But you just got to look right next door to Pau Gasol and see that they don't age like everybody else. And so I think there will be more interest in Marc Gasol around the league is the long way to say that. And Gasol is actually somebody you can plug into just any situation. You could say the same thing for Conley, but the big man situation around the league is dire. There's available slots for big men all over the league. And, contenders, I think, would absolutely love to bring in a Marc Gasol.
Who's close that could use that to get over the hump? Is there a team that needs?
I think the Lakers, actually. I think your Lakers could look at that as an option.
And is he? I got to know Marc Gasol's contract status also. Conley, by the way, does have 2 more years after this one. I had to look that up as well. Gasol has a player option next year, which I'm sure would scare the bejesus out of LA.
I mean, if I'm the Magic, I'm throwing the farm to try to get Mike Conley right now.
Yeah, that one makes a lot of sense.
So there are a couple teams where Conley makes sense. And I was actually asked on the ITL pod about these guys. I think there's buy low on both of them because I think people will be fearful of anything having to do with change for either of them. Right now, they're in a great spot. No red flags, putting up great numbers. People are going to look at the change as being prohibitive, but I think Marc Gasol fits in wherever he goes. And I think Conley, if he's going somewhere, whoever's acquiring him is going to make sure he has more than enough space. And he's not a high usage guy. He is on this team.
Yeah, it's true, because when you're talking about fringe players moving teams, there's a lot of fear that comes with, okay, well, how are they going to fit in with their new superstar teammates? But when you're moving the stars around, they're going to play, they're going to do stuff, right? Like, that's not really the big... And plus, then you get them onto a team where maybe they don't have to just pull the plug at the end of March. Maybe they actually play until the end of the year. What about the Hornets? Do you think they'd go crazy and trade for Marc Gasol? That team could use a center bad.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the one that jumps out.
Both players are guys you want around your team, though. I will say this about Gasol, the fact that he and, the Grizzlies have butted heads for so long is not lost upon decision makers around the NBA. Both Gasols are actually, it was funny because now everybody loves Pau Gasol and they think of him as like the consummate professional. When he was early in his Memphis days, he was hit for being a bit of a surly guy and not easy to play with. And they're both players that are going to speak their mind. And, that I think has led to trouble in Memphis. And I think that he'll wear that a little bit around the league. But both guys are guys that you want on your team. Both guys, I think when somebody looks at Gasol and some of the surliness, they're just going to go, well, yeah, that's the price you pay for having a good player that speaks their mind. And nobody's going to back off acquiring Marc Gasol for those reasons. So both guys, absolutely. Charlotte, they could try to do that. New Orleans is in this incredibly unique position of having to try to figure out what to do with Anthony Davis. What kind of move can they make to convince him to stick around? Or are they already reading the tea leaves and saying, no, we're planning for a post-Anthony Davis scenario, and they have ownership that's somewhat in flux? And it's the same with Memphis. When you have these ownership situations that are in flux, it really throws a monkey wrench. Sam Amick wrote an article on for The Athletic that was on this topic of what goes into making trades and everything, the work involved. And when you have that lack of decision-making structure, hello, Sacramento, you're going to have issues trying to make good trades happen. So again, fascinating stuff. And it's right around the corner 2 weeks from now.
What about Justin Holiday?
I love it. 40 minutes. I think we read this one. I mean, I know somewhere along the line, at least one of us probably let go of the rope for at least a little bit. I know on my teams where I've got, 5 injured guys and I had to make a move, like Holiday was the guy that had to get cut. But he gets minutes. His game travels well. Yes, we're going to see Kyle Anderson return. No, I don't think it's going to matter. This team has very few good players in the grand scheme of things. And, they did trade for him. Thankfully, they're playing him now. I think he's going to settle in at a minimum 26 to 28 minutes per game and probably over the 30 mark.
All right. Very good. Jared Bayless? I didn't even know how to make...
Hey, who owns him in 30 deep? Do you know?
Is that you?
That is me.
You know who has Shabazz Napier, though? It doesn't matter. My team's terrible, but it is me. So that's
my team is sliding because of everybody we've talked about.
I got
today.
nothing. Panda and I were just lamenting the fact that our records in our division would have us in like 5th place in the other one, and we're just buried at the bottom of this oddly deep.
Running away with this league, and now because of Nikola Mirotic and Ennis Kanter, it's so fast in that league. Just one injury can knock you back.
Oh yes, indeed. Yeah, Andre Drummond's been out for a week, and I'm toast. I'm just getting slaughtered. Now I guess he's back. Or is he supposed to be back now? It doesn't matter. Who cares? What did I say? Oh, Jared Bayless. Is there something going on?
Look at so Bayless is another guy who's facing NBA mortality, and he's going to be an injury risk for the rest of his career. No matter what, if he's been out there for 60 straight games, he's an injury risk. And but ahead of him, Jeff Teague does not sound healthy. That's an intriguing situation since they're in the middle of a playoff chase, franchise turnover, new coach, a lot of what ifs going on there. Who knows what's going on with Glenn Taylor? There's just a ton of question marks there. Derrick Rose, not healthy, never will be. It's not hard to see at all for Jared Bayless to get in there and be productive for some stretch of time. We don't know what that would be, but, it could be like the rest of the year. And in a backup role, if either Rose or Teague, is able to stay healthy, he comes off the bench, he fires away because they need it. And, 14 point hell. I mean, Josh Okogie shot like 2 of 14 the other night. They have to have players that can put the ball in the hoop. And we don't know when we're going to get Robert Covington back. Thank you, Tom Thibodeau. It's a mess. And they're going to need a guy like Jared Bayless to bail them out.
Son of a gun. All right. That's all I got on that one. The Knicks. This is why these are the last ones, because I got no good transition to get from team to team once you get to these weirdos. We had Ennis Kanter being told he was starting that last game on Wednesday, and then a half an hour before the game started, it was announced that Noah Vonleh was going to shift up and play center, and Lance Thomas was going to play the 4. And so any normal human, much like myself, would think, all right, well, okay, if I can still get Kanter like 20 minutes off the bench, that'll be fine. He'll be able to do his thing. And then DNP, from you're starting to you don't even get off the bench.
I saw somebody slandering Kanter for not being in the huddle.
Can you blame him at that point? He was wrong.
No, I don't need to hear that team-friendly BS. That's crap. You go back to our shows before the season and the writing, and I'm pretty sure the draft guide and whatever articles, Bruski 150, the thing I feared, and it should have been more aggressively, followed through on by me, is that Kanter wasn't going to shut up. They were going to get pissed at each other, and this was going to happen. He's pissed, and they're screwing with him. I'm sorry. David Fizdale is quickly going on my list of coaches that need more seasoning on the sidelines as an assistant, or maybe he's just an assistant, he tells Kanter he's starting and then sends Keith Smart, who's the ultimate assistant coach, by the way. I mean, watching Keith Smart in Sacramento, you totally get this. And Keith's a good guy. he's been through a little bit lately. But you send your assistant coach to deliver this news. You can't be face to face with your player and be like, this is what we're doing here. And the reason he can't do that is because ownership and management above him, Scott Perry has this short history of really impacting lineup decisions on the floor with the players that he brings in. And it's as if when he's acquiring these players, he is making promises about playing time. And when you get into that game, you neuter your coach. Your coach has no say in what's going on. And if you're a coach in that situation, you start to do silly things. And some coaches stand for it and some don't. And that's the behind the scenes game in the NBA. But yeah, no, Kanter is getting completely raked over the coals, and you don't know how much of this is, because of his stances politically. You don't know how much of this is because he's speaking out, about not playing. And I actually think it's good that Kanter's speaking out. Players that go through this, that then get vilified in the media for not being good enough or not earning their money or not producing enough, this is not his bad. You don't not play Ennis Kanter if you're trying to win games. And you don't not play Ennis Kanter if you're trying to develop players correctly. So everything that's happening with Ennis Kanter is BS, either at the GM level the coach level, or maybe even the owner level. So he's not going to play going forward unless they absolutely get pinned into a corner and they have to play him.
So what does that mean for the rest of these guys? It feels like one thing we're seeing is that Mitchell Robinson's just going to play until he fouls out.
Absolutely. And that's beautiful. And that's why you held him through all the bad times. He's going to just rack up blocks, and he's going to be a difference maker down the stretch. Same with Luke Kornet, who, by the way, can you get hurt on a Sunday, Luke? Not on a Monday. It's just piling up right now. Maybe I'm frustrated, but yeah, no, he's going to be great. The two of them together as a tandem in fantasy leagues is going to be just an incredible, thing for owners. And the rest of the bunch, I don't know that we have an update on Moutier, but that puts Trey Burke in play. Alonzo Trier's doing stuff, but they're everybody's on the block. This team could look completely different at the trade deadline. Tim Hardaway, is on the block. The front, it's a mess, man. Why has New York got the dumb franchise?
The funny thing, too, going all the way back to the start of that on the Fizdale thing, was that all of the pro Knicks stuff has been talking about what a great communicator he is. That's been their crowing point. And I feel like that really... He is as an assistant. If he's the Keith Smart going to the player and saying, hey, buddy, you know what? Like, you're not playing today. Sorry, I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, I don't like that.
He's great in that role. In Miami, he was great, and the players loved him. But you can't shoot for. It's like he's either shooting from the hip, but I really think that there's a connection to how the front office handles things there. And obviously, you've got Jim Dolan.
Well, the turds cost me a win in our DFS thing, because if I got even 20 points out of my center, I would have cashed.
Dude, I copied off of John Schifferle's picks.
And you got 19th, right?
I believe
You squeezed in there.
I assumed I won. I turned in at the end of the night, and I was in 15th, and I'm like, I got this. And John Schifferle, man, I looked at in his analysis, I wonder what John Schifferle's DFS account looks like, because I think he's a ringer now.
He's just quietly beating the hell out of everyone.
And Napatria was right up there at third or something, right?
Yeah, he destroyed it. I used a lot of his guys, and the only one that cost me was
Kanter. I'm starting to think I'm
Kanter.
overmatched.
Yeah, it's tough to take on the legitimate DFS dudes, and we've got a couple of them here at Hoop Ball, so that's cool though. And it's good to talk to Mike every Wednesday to get that fill in. All right, last team on my list, and then we'll wrap this thing up. The Phoenix Suns, who I know you also talked about with the Welsh yesterday, and so let me start with this, Brew.
Every team has a super fan, Dan,
and that is you.
I am that team super fan.
Yeah. Has any other Suns? Have you been blocked by any other Suns team pages?
No, but the ITL guys went off. Stupid bloggers. I was like, I don't know if I want to go that far.
Yeah,
but...
well, you're already blocked. They're not going to see it anyway.
I mean, nah.
You know what? There's a good one.
I'm trying to be nicer these days, Dan. I leave my fury for President Trump.
That's right. Save it for the things that matter. There is a good one, by the way. We had Suns blogger from Valley of the Suns on, and they wrote this long tweet storm a couple nights back about how Devin Booker was acting like an impetulant child, and I was like, a Suns blog that will actually...
You had a Suns blogger on the show?
It was way, way back at the beginning of the year, but yes, it's not the one that blocked you, by the way. This is... Okay. That was a different one. I know the one that blocked you, and I can't remember which one it was, but it wasn't Valley of the Sun. They've been pretty truthful in their coverage of the team. They've been willing to attack when needs to attack. But that's not what the point of this one is. My question for you is, with the TJ Warren news and DeAndre Ayton missing a bunch of games, and DeAnthony Melton going down, are we going to start to see the Suns turn from we're pretending like we're competing to, yeah, we're tanking?
They're a weird team, man.
Is this the time? Is this the pivot moment?
No, because I think, first of all, Igor Kokoskov is... There was an article written by the Arizona Republic that came out 2 days ago that I just was not floored by, but you don't see this very often, where the local rag in a small market writes something that makes the coach look dumb. And the story was that DeAndre Ayton was essentially complaining about Kokoskov not communicating well enough. And I thought that's just really interesting for, a rookie player to come out and say that stuff. And at the same time, he's had a pretty good demeanor in that sort of intangible locker room chemistry. I mean, Richaun Holmes is kicking his ass up and down the floor. And he and both of them are cheering for each other with no signs of trouble at all. So I think it might be the case that Kokoskov is trying some things that are different and, not really hitting the mark on all of them. But the fact that it got out, I thought was just really, really unique. They have ownership issues. They have a new front office that was essentially a play to connect with some of the wheeling and dealing people in the NBA, the Rich Pauls of the world. And so this pivot and this accidental trade that they almost didn't get into has made them a very good basketball team in many respects, for a young team, that is. I think they're all going to buy into the idea of competing. The question is when does Sarver call in, the tanking? When do they tell people that are hurt that they've got to stay out for 2 to 3 weeks to play it safe, and do the players cooperate? I mean, this was something that, who was it? It was Brandon Knight, I believe, complained about being told. No, it was Eric Bledsoe complained about being told he had to sit. And so I think you're going to see like competing interests in here. I think Devin Booker has a voice in this. Like, I don't think Booker is going to be happy if guys are being told that they got to sit out. So I kind of think, my gut tells me that they're going to keep pushing this thing. Little bit weird that the same reporter, Dwayne Rankin, thought that Richaun Holmes was going to play in the first game after he was maybe the first or second game he was going to be out, and then he didn't play. And now Richaun told the AP that he's going to be that he said he thinks he's playing on Friday. Now the reports that have come out of Phoenix are pretty like, we don't know, even though that same reporter who saw him in the weight room and said, I think he's going to be playing, that same reporter told a Twitter follower, this is how deep we go to search for some of this stuff, told a Twitter follower that he thought that Richaun was ready to go. DeAndre Ayton, on the other hand, is not ready. And so you might see some time with him still on the shelf. This will all kind of come to a head probably right around the All-Star break. And I think that they will probably play hard and continue to try to win through February. And then March and April are up for grabs.
And that's all I got, Brew. El Arquitecto. Muchas gracias.
I looked up that French press thing. That's
yeah, no, you don't do it.
Don't never Google.
Never
man.
Google.
Never Google.
Mr. Bruski, have a lovely weekend, my good man.
I shall. You do the same.
He's Aaron Bruski. I'm Dan Besbris. This is everything that I could come up with to talk about that happened this week. This is Fantasy NBA Today. We'll be back at you with a reverse chronological lightning round on Monday. And some more DFS action next week. Maxing out the room. Thank you again, everybody, for listening all week long, all year long. Thanks for your help in the DFS stuff. Have a lovely weekend. We'll talk to you then.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.